turning up. For people I haven't met, my name's Sam. I'm one of the activists in Unionists for Palestine. We begin, as always, of course, by acknowledging that we're on the land of the Whadjuk Noongar people. Sovereignty was never ceded. Obviously, we pledge our support to the struggle for sovereignty, for justice, for land rights, and pay respect to elders past and present. And I think us, particularly as Australians, when we look at the horrors being committed by Israel in Palestine, we should never lose sight of the fact that Israel would love to be able to achieve what 200 years of colonisation did to Aboriginal people in this country. To turn Palestinians into 4% of the population in their own homeland is the dream for Netanyahu, and in fact that's exactly where they're heading if we don't stop them. Okay, in a general sense, you know perfectly well why we're here. The so-called ceasefire is bullshit. The intensity of the genocide in Gaza might have dialed back a little bit, but people are still dying every day. And Israel is still destroying the conditions for life, material and cultural, every single day in Gaza. And as you know as well, they've actually stepped up their settlements and displacements and harassment of Palestinians in the West Bank. In fact, Israel has just moved to authorise 19 new settlements in the West Bank, which is by itself genocide. Okay, so that's the general reason why we're here. But why particularly are we here tonight? Because it's not enough just to win over public opinion and to convince the majority of the Australian people that what's happening in Gaza is bad. We've done that. That's good. That's fantastic. Consciousness, understanding about the reality of what's happening in Palestine is at an all-time high in Australia. That's a fantastic achievement of us, this movement, all the work we've done. But Australian politicians, they pay attention to public opinion polls, but they don't listen to public opinion polls, if you get the difference, okay? They're aware of that, but what they're trying to do is make our movement go away, pretend to act while not acting. And that's why we are in the BDS stage of our movement, where we have to convince our friends, workmates, family, who accept that what is happening to the Palestinians is a genocide, that they are going to need to do something about it. That these politicians in Australia, they're not going to be convinced by legal or rational or moral arguments to do the right thing. We are going to have to push them to do the right thing. They are going to have to be forced against their will to do the right thing. They're going to have to be forced against their will even just to uphold fucking international law and the genocide treaty that Australia is a signatory to, and that obliges Australia to prevent genocide. That's actually the legal obligation of Australia, and those treaty obligations have the force of law in Australia. You know, step back and remember that. We are trying to get the Australian government to obey the fucking law. But we're going to need BDS to do it. Just like we had to with the campaign to isolate apartheid. We're going to need to build a movement that's still bigger and more diverse and does stuff like direct action to take this message to the Australian people. So that's the BDS campaign that we're part of. And so that means taking that message everywhere we can, into workplaces, into cultural spaces, and including, if and when we can, actually trying to physically stop the support to apartheid genocide Israel, if and where we can. It's a part of our mission to take that message to the Australian people. Also why we're here particularly, of course, is Maersk. So for those that don't know, Maersk is a massive Danish multinational shipping company. I think the biggest shipping and logistics company in the world. And not only does it ship goods to Israel, but it ships weapons parts. It ships parts for the F-35. It ships parts for tanks. It ships parts for military assault vehicles, and the list goes on. But particularly the F-35 parts, and Australia, of course, is also part of that F-35 production chain. The aircraft that Israel uses to bomb people living in tents right now. So that's why we're here, to draw attention to Maersk and to make it ever more costly for these companies that profit from genocide to do so. Now, some of you will know that we've done these pickets before. I think this is maybe the 6th or the 7th picket, okay? And we've had varying success with them. So I'm just being honest with you, you know. Our the thing we try to do is actually physically block access to Patrick's terminal, because that's the stevedoring company that Maersk uses in Fremantle at the moment. Okay, there's 2 stevedoring companies. At the moment, Maersk uses Patrick. There's a Maersk vessel that just left earlier this afternoon, and there's another one coming in later this weekend. We don't know exactly when. So our mission, okay, it's tied up now. Okay, so there's containers arriving for it, and there's containers they want to take off this vessel. So our general mission when we've done these pickets is try to actually block access to Patrick's terminal to physically disrupt the servicing of the Maersk vessels. And sometimes we have more success than other times. It depends on our numbers, the numbers the police have, a whole range of factors like that. So on some occasions we've blocked access for 3 hours, another occasion 15 minutes, another occasion like 6 hours. The most recent one, which I wasn't at, we didn't actually manage to physically block access at all. So on that level you might think I didn't really work out very well. But the shipping company and the port authority delayed the vessel about 3 times. So in the end the vessel was delayed for about 2.5 days. So by that measure it was actually the most successful one. And actually probably cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars. In fact, we've already cost them tens of thousands of dollars just with all the police and the port authority and all the fuck around that's already happening there at the intersection, okay? But I just want to make that clear so that we don't be too narrow in your assessment of what's a success or failure of these pickets. Like I said, we've done ones where we've lasted 15 minutes, ones where we've lasted 3 hours, ones where we haven't succeeded at all to actually block access. But what we're trying to do is build the pool of people that understand that we need BDS. And that we need mass BDS, and that our goal should be to be a country like Spain or Italy where there's actually strike action, where there's so many people turn up that there's absolutely nothing the police can do about it, where the balance of force is just totally on our side. Now we're still a long way from that in Australia. We just got to be blunt about that as well, you know. It's difficult in Western Australia, and we have the added difficulty for 2 reasons. One, because of AUKUS. Our government is just totally tied in with the United States. So it can't even do the kind of measures that we see in places like, you know, Spain or Ireland. And then on top of that, of course, the Labor government uses its influence to try and stifle expressions of dissent about support for Israel in the union movement as well. So so it's not as easy as Italy or Spain, where, you know, and then on top of that, of course, we've got laws that make it actually illegal for workers to take solidarity action. It's illegal in Australia. You know, the only time you're allowed to take strike action in Australia is around your own wages and conditions during the protected bargaining period when your EBA expires. So like once every 3 or 4 years, you're allowed to go on strike, you know, maybe for 1 or 2 months, and then bang, you're not allowed to go on strike anymore. That's the shit we're up against in Australia. So it'd be nice just to say, oh, the truckies and wharfies, they should just walk off the job, that sort of stuff. That is what we want. That is our goal. But we're building public support. So that's what I want you to understand. Okay, so just onto some of the practicalities. I won't rave on too much more about the general stuff. We'll hear from some other speakers if and where we can, because we try to keep people informed as well as do the picket. Exactly where and how that will happen, of course, it's a bit of a movable feast, but there are some other people who have been lined up to say a few words as well when we get down near to the entrance to Patrick's. So we're going to be heading down Tydeman Road towards the Patrick's terminal. You'll see that we've got marshals in the yellow vests, okay? And look, this is a voluntary movement. We can't tell anyone what to do, okay? But I really would encourage you to follow the direction of our marshals, because our movement is best, it's strongest when we act in a calm, disciplined, united way. And sometimes the marshals have to make on-the-spot judgment calls. Should we stand? Should we sit? Are we trying to do a hard picket, or are the numbers against us? Are we not trying to do a hard picket? Are we going here? Are we going there? Okay? They're just going to make a decision on the spot. You may not always agree with it. Doesn't matter. Don't whinge and moan about it. Get involved in the movement. Make it bigger. Make it stronger so we can make it more successful next time. Okay, so that's the marshals are here to try and keep you safe, keep you informed, but also they will confer with each other every now and then just to make tactical decisions about what we're doing. We've also got police liaison as well. And the other thing I really want to encourage people to understand is we've got one police liaison person. We don't want 20 police liaison people. We've got one designated police liaison person. So your job is not to speak to the police. Your job is not to get in their face and wind them up, and it's also not to try and butter them up. You don't need to talk to the police. The less discussion you have with the police, the better, okay? Except if the police ask you for your name, address and date of birth, you are by law obliged to give it to them. That's very unlikely to happen, but if in a situation where they want to serve you with a move-on notice, then they would, okay? But outside of that circumstance, the only person who needs to be speaking to the police is the police liaison person from amongst our ranks. And that's Robin. There's Robin, okay? But having said that, if you've got a genuine problem with behaviour of the police or a question or something like that, speak to one of the marshals or speak to Robin. So I really encourage you to do that. As I said, we're not trying to get people arrested unnecessarily. I know it's a cliche, but we're running a marathon, not a race kind of thing. But that said, if anyone does get arrested, then we look after our own. So if you see anyone being arrested by the police, find out who it is, their name, see if you can find out their phone number, speak to one of the marshals, speak to police liaison, speak to legal observers. LOs are in the pink vest. Make sure the team knows what's going on, and we don't abandon our own. So if that does happen to anyone, we follow it up and we make sure they're looked after through the whole process. Now, so far what's happened with the pickets, where we have managed to do proper hard pickets, where we've actually sat down across the gate entrance to the port, generally the police will say, you're not allowed to be there. We go, yeah, but that's a genocide, so life choices, we're making ours. 10, 15 minutes later, they will say, they'll issue you with a move-on notice. They'll say, if you don't move now, we'll give you a move-on notice. They'll write the move-on notice. If you don't leave having received a move-on notice, then they can arrest you. Getting the move-on notice is no big deal, but it does mean you have to leave the area, and you can't come back within the stipulated time. Okay, if you don't, but as I said, if you refuse to leave having received a move-on notice, and generally our practice has been to go at that point, then they could arrest you. But I should add, of course, that they can move straight to arrest. Like if they just say that you're blocking the road, you're breaking the law, we're not giving you a warning, they could just arrest you on the spot. It can happen. It's not likely, but it can. Okay, so I'm just letting you know of that possibility. The other thing too is don't feel like you have to be a hero and you have to get arrested or you have to get a move on notice, anything like that. There's plenty of other jobs to do. There's banners to hold. People are going to be having goes on the microphone, cracking out songs, giving some short speeches. That's fine, okay? So I just want people to be very clear about that. There's no expectation that you have to be a hero and get arrested if you don't want to be. In fact, we're not trying to get the crowd arrested at all. But we are trying to do a proper picket. All right, so I think I've pretty much covered everything, unless any of the marshals think I've forgotten something. No? All right. So, like I said, we're going to head up to the lights there. We're going to head along that way, along Tideman Road, on this side of the road. And then the marshals are going to make a call about what we do when we get there. I encourage you to follow their direction. Thanks so much.
Free Palestine!
Free, 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 free Palestine!
All right, when you're ready, marshals.
Time has to fall! Brick by brick! Wall by wall! Israeli apartheid has to fall! Brick by brick! Wall by wall! Israeli apartheid has to fall!
Brick by brick.
Wall by wall! Israeli apartheid has to fall!
Now. 1,
We are the people!
2,
We won't be silent!
3.
Sanction Israel!
Now.
We are the people! We won't be silent! Sanction Israel! We are the people! We won't be silent! Sanction Israel! We are the people! We won't be silent! Sanction Israel! We are the people! We won't be silent! Sanction Israel! We are the people! We won't be silent! Sanction Israel!
We are the people. 2, we won't be silent. 3, sanction Israel. Now. 1, we are the people. 2, we won't be silent. 3, sanction Israel. Now. 1, we are the people. 2, we won't be silent. 3, sanction Israel. Now.
We are the won't be silent. Free. Sanction Israel now, 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 now. We are the people. We won't be silent. Free. Sanction Israel now, 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 now. We are the people. We won't be silent. Free. Sanction Israel now, 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 now.
We are the people too. We won't be silent. Free. Sanction Israel now, 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 now.
We are the people. We won't be silent.
Sanction Israel now, 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 now.
We are the people.
Blocked access for us already, but we're lending a helping hand. That's what we're here to do. We're here to lend the people of Palestine a helping hand. Fantastic work. So as we said before, the Maersk vessel is tied up. They're trying to get containers in for it, and they're trying to get containers out for it. You've already caused, I don't know how many hours of delay, which is fantastic. Just this whole circus here, the police blocking access, has done a fantastic job of that. But to speak more about the campaign and other aspects of it, we'll get a couple of speakers up here. Unions for Palestine had a whole heap of help from the Greens Upper House MP Sophie McNeil. Sophie, if you want to say a few words, we'd love you to safely make your way over to the microphone. 1. We are the people. 2. We won't be silent. 3. Sanction Israel now, now, now. 1. We are the people. 2. Sanction Israel. Whoops, sorry about that.
Sanction Israel now, 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 now. We are the people. We won't be silent. Sanction Israel now, 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 now.
1, 2, 3.
Sanction Israel now, 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 now.
1. We are the people too. We won't be silent. 3. Stop this ship now, 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 now. 1. We are the people too. We won't be silent. 3. Stop this ship now, 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 now. People, you are a beautiful sight from over here. You can see all of you. Thank you all so much for coming this evening. I'd just like to start by acknowledging that we are here in Walyallup. We're on Whadjuk Noongar land. This land was never ceded, and it always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Now, as we gather here this evening, it's such a warm night here, and it's incredible how many of you have turned up. But right now in Gaza, babies are freezing to death. Shame. Right now in Gaza, the horrific Storm Byron has seen 27,000 families' tents being destroyed, being inundated by the flooding. And who is blocking temporary housing and caravans from getting into Gaza? Israel! The Israeli authorities are continuing to block the entry of basic shelter materials, the entry of aid. Shame! So we have families, we had 14 people die in the last 24 hours because the buildings that they were in collapsed under the weight of this storm. Because of Israel's horrific genocide against the people of Gaza. Shame. So tonight, friends, so many of you came out on this warm evening, but we are here because we have seen those videos. Our hearts are with the families of Gaza, the children of Gaza right now who are absolutely freezing. And we saw this week on Thursday in Han Yunis in the south of Gaza, the Abu Shazar family, they woke up, their tent had been submerged overnight because Israel has systematically destroyed the homes of millions of Palestinians. And when that family woke up on Thursday, their 8-month-old baby, Rahaf, had died. She had died of hypothermia because of the cold. Shame! So we have babies freezing to death, and all the videos that you've seen at the moment, they're absolutely heartbreaking as families are trying to salvage the few possessions that they have left as their tents are inundated with sewerage, water mixed with sewerage, where there's absolutely no shelter, and Israel is blocking aid from entering Gaza still. Shame! But friends, this is an exciting start to our BDS movement. that is going to continue into next year. This is the next stage of our movement for Gaza. And I'm so proud to see you all come out here tonight in the middle of a busy time of year, but you have all showed up because you care, and thank you so much for being here. But I just wanted to inspire you a little bit and to think of some incredibly brave people right now in the UK. So right now, we have 8 of the Palestine Action prisoners on hunger strike. So we have 5 of them in hospital. So these are the heroes, friends. These are absolute heroes. So this is the most significant hunger strike that's happened in the UK for political prisoners since 1981. So those famous IRA hunger strikes, this is now on that level. We have 5 of them are in hospital, and these are all mostly young people who sacrificed for Gaza, who put their own personal freedom on the line to try and stop weapons going to Gaza. So I think it was worth mentioning them tonight, friends, because they are the ones who are paying the ultimate sacrifice. And we saw this week a letter from their lawyers to the Justice Secretary and the Deputy Prime Minister in the UK, David Lammy, where they said there is a real and increasingly likely potential that their clients could die in prison as part of this process because that is the state of some of them. Absolute shame. So we have got Kamran Ahmed. He's been on hunger strike for 31 days. So he's been in prison for a year on remand, waiting for his trial, and he's been taken to hospital after collapsing in his cell. So a big cheer for Kamran Ahmed. We also have Kasser Zuhra, who's on day 38 of her hunger strike, along with her companion Amy Gardner-Gibson, who's also on day 38 of her hunger strike. She's unable to walk now from all reports of Amy. And Palestine Action have been doing some incredible work in the UK. So I thought that we could do a little chat in solidarity with these absolute heroes of the BDS campaign, Palestine Action, right now in the UK, who are paying the ultimate price because of what they did to try and stop weapons going to Israel. I oppose genocide. I support Palestine Action. 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 Thank you, friends. So as we're sitting here tonight, as we consider our next steps, let us just think of those young people right now sitting in jail in the UK, lying in a hospital bed on day 38 of their hunger strike. These are people who broke into weapons manufacturing facilities in the UK. They broke into fields where they store F-35s, just as we see Maersk transport those parts that go to Israel to commit their genocide. And so let them inspire us. Let them be at the forefront of our minds as we carry out our action tonight. Stay safe, friends. Thank you so much. And let's keep this movement going.
Thanks so much, Sophie. And, you know, to break Australia's support for Israel, it's not going to happen just by asking nicely. And what we need are activist MPs like Sophie, prepared to put it on the line and to cross the road, just like every single one of you did tonight. The marshals put the question to each other, should we safely cross the road? Will people join us? Every single one of you did. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Well, in contrast to Sophie is one Anthony Albanese. I'm going to tell you a true story. When I was 16 years old, bear with me, I won't tell you my whole life story, but when I was 16 years old, pretty keen, but also a bit naive, I attended my first Young Labor conference in Melbourne at the age of 16. Hey, you be quiet, Patrina. And guess who was the 20-year-old Secretary of Young Labor? Anthony Albanese. Anthony Albanese, who in 2014 joined, wait for it, Parliamentary Friends of Palestine. And 10 years later, he is actively aiding and abetting a genocide upon the Palestinian people. And what what shits me the tears the most about Albo is that he can't just be honest. On the one hand, he gives us crocodile tears and he wrings his hands and he says, I support a two-state solution and I'm going to recognise Palestine. But then at the very same time, that's to try and suck us in and bullshit us, soft soap us. Then at the same time, he continues to allow the flow of F-35 parts to Israel. Now, these Labor ministers say, oh, Australia's got no choice. Australia's part of the F-35 program. We just send the parts to the United States. We don't decide where the parts go. I mean, that's bullshit anyway. Australia could withdraw from the F-35 program, but now it's been revealed. Weapons parts from the F-35s have flown directly from Sydney to Tel Aviv. And when we try to point it out, when we point out that Australia is breaking its legal obligations, you know, this was decided by the High Court. Australia's treaty obligations have the force of law in Australia. It was decided by the Franklin Dam case. It would be, we are attempting to uphold the law. You're not breaking the law, you're upholding the fucking law that this government deliberately breaks. And when you try to point that out, what does Albo do to deflect attention, to try and smear your name? Runs an utterly deliberate and dishonest campaign for a year and a half to paint us as being anti-Semitic. Not only is that a gross disservice to the Palestinian people, a gross disservice to our movement, but by completely messing up the meaning of the word anti-Semitism, it actually makes anti-Semitism worse in this country. That's what it does, and that is his legacy. He'll go to the grave with that having been his legacy, having made anti-Semitism actually worse and aided the genocide in Palestine. But we've been really fortunate that we've had Jews for Palestine present at these pickets and all the demos, every single one for the last 2 years. And I know we've got some of the Jews for Palestine activists here, Janet or Jody. I think, Janet, you've got a few words. If you want to come over to the mic, that'd be fantastic, and just talk about what you've been up to. 1, we are the people. 2,
We won't be silenced.
3, sanction Israel now, now, now. 1, we are the people. 2, we won't be silent. 3, sanction Israel now, 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 now. 1, we are the people. 2, we won't be silent. 3, sanction Israel now, now, now.
We are the people. We won't be silenced.
3, sanction Israel now, 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 now. 1, we are the people. 2, we won't be silent. 3, sanction Israel now, 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 now.
Sanction Israel now, 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 now.
Friends and comrades, Maersk's decision in June this year to stop transporting goods to and from the West Bank is proof that companies can be exposed, can be isolated, can be forced to shift. The next shift we need to force is that shuts down their critical role in the F-35 global supply chain. Research shows that Maersk has shipped the wings for every Israeli F-35 since 2022. Shame! Shame! We need to ramp up the pressure. Think of how important economic and cultural boycotts were in ending apartheid in South Africa. The sporting boycotts saw South Africa excluded from most international competition, including cricket and rugby. I think we need to give the Eurovision boycott campaign the same emphasis. And I would actually be keen to talk to folk here tonight who are interested in that, in particular folk who are involved in the arts and in performance. I think we can make a really strong stand and campaign around this particular boycott. There are important lessons, I think, to be learned from the movement against South African apartheid. And
important sectors of our community that we need to engage in this fight in order to win. Not least the organised trade union movement. Imagine if the MUA were in a position, were able to refuse to load and unload ships. If baggage handlers and pilots refuse to load and fly the planes that carry F-35 parts to the US and ultimately to Israel. BDS needs to become more central. As Sophie said, it needs to become a central component of what we do over the coming months, along with all the other things we are doing. So in line with that, I want to make some comments about the profiteering that's going on from sales of weapons and military services by the 100 largest global arms producing companies. A new report from Stockholm has just come out telling us that these companies made a record profit of $679 billion just in 2024. $679 billion. Israeli companies increased their combined arms revenues by 16% to 16 billion in 2024. And these include Elbit System, who Australia keeps buying shit off. They keep doing deals with Elbit System and buying stuff off Elbit System and going into contracts with Elbit System. Why? Why? In the face of this genocide, in the face of Elbit funding, producing the weapons that are being used to massacre Palestinian people day in and day out, why is this government insisting on continuing to engage in arms trade with Israel and some of their biggest weapons companies? Israel's own military spending surged by 65% from 2023 to 24, and the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange has seen a massive spike, which a UN report has described as the economy of genocide. The economy of genocide. How does that sound? What does that even mean? How can any government, international government, stand by and allow these countries to get rich on the back of murder, daily murder of Palestinian people, of children? They've just murdered a whole lot of young kids in the West Bank. I think they said on average, I think there was like 5 children being killed every day in the West Bank in the last couple of months. This is shocking, absolutely shocking, and we need to do something about it. We need to make them hurt. So there are companies like BAE Systems. It's the world's 6th largest arms producer, manufactures the M109 howitzer, which is a mobile artillery system that has fired thousands of shells into Gaza. And global sales have risen by 14% in 2024 to 38 billion. They may not be made here, but they are one. All of these companies are one, and we need to make them hurt. We need to make them hurt in the same way we want to make Maersk hurt, in the same way that Maersk was made to hurt, which actually ended up preventing them, making them make the decision to no longer transport stuff to the West Bank. This has got to be across the board. I reckon we should be thinking about how we take these fuckers on. We need to be alongside Maersk, alongside Caltex, alongside Eurovision. We need to go into 2026 with a serious strategic thinking about how to target our campaigning. We have so many fronts to campaign on. It can sometimes be so overwhelming. But one thing we can be sure of is that the death cult that is Zionism must not be allowed to continue its siege. On Gaza, on the West Bank, on Lebanon, on Syria, on Iran, on Yemen. These are all the places that Israel has seen fit to bomb and assault and take siege on in the period of the last 2 years. They are just completely out of control, and many, many more people internationally are recognising them as a complete pariah state. So we have to take them on. Sorry, we have to take them on, and that means with all the means that we have at our disposal. We must demand that this government sanction Israel militarily, economically, culturally, at every level. Mask off Maersk, dealers in death. Cut ties with genocide, sanction Israel now. Mask off Maersk, dealers in death. 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 Mask off Maersk, dealers in death.
Mask off Maersk, dealers in death. Mask off Maersk, dealers in death.
Thanks so much, Janet. We really appreciate having Jews for Palestine here. And also forgot to mention Leon, who's here from Jews for Palestine as well. You always see Leon at every single demo as well. Absolutely smashing stuff. Been an absolutely important part of our movement. And I think Janet made two really important points that we need to dwell on. One, we often focus on Australia's armed exports to Israel, but in fact they are dwarfed by our arms imports from Israel, such as the Elbit Systems deal, and that means hundreds of millions of dollars of our money, not Albo's money, not Penny Wong's money, not Richard Marles' money, our money being pumped into the Israeli military-industrial complex. I think it was also really, really valuable that she mentioned the question of Eurovision, because some of us can be tempted to think, oh, well, it's just some corny, pop show, I don't even watch it. But in actual fact, cultural boycott is the soft underbelly. This is the one, and we need to rip it open. And that was the same with apartheid South Africa. It's the one, blockading a port is actually hard work, but it's in the arts and cultural space where we really need to push hard and delegitimise Israel and say, no, you're not going back to normal. It's not, oh, you're dialing back the genocide a little bit and we're going to forget about the last 2 years. No fucking way. The genocide has to stop and the perpetrators have to see their day in court. We owe that to humanity. And, sometimes some of the knockers of the Palestine movement will say, oh, but, there's people suffering in other parts of the world. Don't you care about that? As if you can't walk and chew gum. Of course we care about the people suffering in Sudan or Congo. Their suffering is just as important. But one of the reasons us campaigning around Palestine is so important is because Australia is directly complicit. That makes it our obligation. The Australian government is doing it in our name and will continue to do so until we make them stop. That's why it's so important. And so that's why I think the proposal that Janet floated of an action early in the new year, calling on SBS to do the right thing and pull its coverage of Eurovision is absolutely bang on. Let's try and make it happen. Now, I'm sure there's some reps from Students for Palestine or academics from Palestine or teachers from Palestine here as well. If any of you would like to come over and say a few words on behalf of your group, that'd be fantastic. This is, we've seen people take the Palestine campaigning to their community of interest, to their workplace, to their school, to their church group, to their cultural group. That is fantastic, and we need to see more of that. We should be thinking about where you can take the Palestine campaign and awareness to your community. 1, we are the people. 2, we won't be silent. 3, sanction Israel now. 1, we won't be silent. Whoops, you know how it goes. Nova. And our Nova is a fantastic activist in a whole range of campaigns, founding member of Queer Liberation Bulu. And for those of you who don't know, they had a fantastic float in the Pride Parade a couple of weeks ago, and the reception that got was just huge. The slogan, queer as in free Palestine, just went off. Fantastic initiative. To tell us more about it, over to Nova.
Yeah, so I was told I was going to be speaking about like an hour ago, so I don't really have anything written out. But yeah, we had a rally, we had a contingent at Pride WA. So when it comes to bringing the Palestine movement to our communities, I should have written something. The Palestine movement is at a low ebb because the mainstream media has taken their eyes off of Palestine. What I think the most impactful slogan we have right now is "Don't stop talking about Palestine." Because if the media is going to take their eyes off of Palestine, the job falls on us to make sure that we're still coming out to rallies, that we're still organising rallies, and that we're still and that we're pulling people on board. We're making sure our friends know about Palestine. We're making sure our workmates know about Palestine. That we don't be silent. I think one of the things that was really great about the contingent we had at the Picket, at Pride March was that it was a real show of solidarity. We had people from we had queer people who came out and said, "This is the thing that I want to spend my day at the annual parade fighting for." And trust me, they have options. There are so many queer groups. So I think my favourite chant on the day, and I'm going to lead you in it now, was... my favourite chant was "Show me what solidarity looks like. This is what solidarity looks like." So let's go through that now. Show me what solidarity looks like.
This is what solidarity looks like.
Show me what solidarity looks like.
This is what solidarity looks like.
Show me what solidarity looks like.
This is what solidarity looks like.
I can't hear you.
This is what solidarity looks like. This is what solidarity looks like.
Show me what solidarity looks like. Show me what solidarity looks like.
This is what solidarity looks like.
Because really, the key to winning this movement, to winning a free Palestine, is that we have everyone from all of these different communities come together and engage in actions like this to absolutely crush the economic heart of Israel until the people of Palestine are truly free from their brutal oppression.
Fantastic, Nova. And not only have we seen Palestine solidarity groups pop up in all sorts of sectors of the community, but we've seen them right across WA as well. When we had the really massive National Day of Action a few months ago, there were actions, I'm going to forget one of the towns, but in Geraldton, Broome, Albany, Denmark, Margaret River, what have I forgotten? There's more than that. It's just really huge. But they're also spreading through suburban Perth as well. And an example of that is the fantastic little group that's formed, Rockingham for Palestine. So let's hear it from Rockingham for Palestine.
I'm not an official speaker for Rockingham for Palestine, but I just want to remind all of you that all of us, suburbs, small areas, can actually do our small bit to really make people aware of Palestine. So this week, Rockingham for Palestine, for instance, held a vigil in the Rockingham Foreshore Park. We had pictures of children who had died. We had little lights. We had a priest, an Anglican priest, who actually did a lovely speech or preaching, whatever you want to call it. But it was very touching. And people stopped and asked, "What are you doing? What is this for?" Not many people, but enough to say it really is worthwhile to raise awareness in the community of the horrors that continue to go on in Palestine.
To me, it is all about free Palestine and free the Palestinians.
Thanks so much. All right, we'll put some music on for a while. Stay safe, look out for each other. Make sure you follow the directions of the marshals. I really encourage you to do that. If you have any concerns, be sure to raise them with the legal observers and police liaison as well. Thanks so much. Sit tight, stay safe.